So this is operations with scientific notation, part 2 of 2. In this lesson, the lesson objective is that I can perform operations with numbers expressed in scientific notation, specifically multiplication and division. The last lesson we did was adding and subtracting. This is multiplying and dividing. This should be a lot simpler for you, just like multiplying and dividing fractions and multiplying and dividing integers is actually a lot simpler than adding and subtracting. There are no common powers of 10 that you need, and you just need to know the rules of multiplying and dividing. First, let's go over some vocabulary. This is not new vocabulary. This is vocabulary that you've already had, but I wanted to remind you of it because you will need it. So, the commutative property. The commutative property means that you can move terms around in an expression This lets you put things that are alike together and then do the operation, and we're going to use this in both multiplying and dividing. The product of powers property means that if you have two bases that you are multiplying together, you can add the exponents. Okay? You can add the exponent. The quotient of powers property means that if you have two bases that are the same and you are dividing them, you can subtract the exponents. You will need both of these to multiply and divide powers of 10 or scientific notation. So let's get right into it. I'm going to go through the steps really quickly, and then I'm going to apply them to a problem. The first step is to use the commutative property to rewrite an expression. We just talked about commutative property. It means we're going to move things around so they make sense to us. Then you're going to multiply the coefficients. The third thing you're going to do is you're going to use the product of powers property to multiply the powers of 10. And then you're going to check your answer and make sure that it's still in scientific notation. And if it's not, change it so it is. So let's go through these steps with this problem below. 8.2 times 10 to the second power times 2 times 10 to the fifth power. What that means is we're looking at multiplying all four of these terms. So the first thing it tells us to do is to use the commutative property to rewrite the expression. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use that orange to do that. Here's what it means. These are coefficients. I'm going to group them together. And you know me, I don't love to use X, so I'm going to use a dot for multiplication. Okay? And then I'm going to group together my powers of 10. 10 to the second power times 10 to the fifth power. My second step says multiply the coefficients. Well, let's do that. When I multiply 8.2 times 2, I get 16.4. Okay? I did that step. Now it tells me to use the product of powers property to multiply the powers of 10. They have the same base, so that means that I just add their exponents. So 16.4 times 10 to the seventh power. My last step tells me to convert to proper scientific notation if necessary. Is it in scientific notation right now? No, because this is not between 1 and 10. I'm going to take this large number and make it smaller, and that's a positive exponent. So I'm going to go over 1. So if it's a positive exponent, I'm going to add these two together. So now I have 1.64 times 10 to the 8th power. Pretty simple. Believe it or not, I think that's something you can do by yourself. So I'm going to let you go ahead and try these by yourself and come back and see how you did. Okay, so let's find out how you did. Let's regroup. That's the first step. So let's regroup this first one. 6.9 times 5. Put those coefficients together, and then let's put our powers of 10 together. The next step is to multiply the coefficients, which gives me 34 and 5/10. The third step is to add my powers of 10. Negative 3 plus 4 is positive 1. And my last step is to turn it into scientific notation if it's necessary. 34 and 5/10 is not in scientific notation. I know I'm making a large number smaller, so I add 1. So I have 3 and 45/100 times 10 to the second power. And I told you I'd use a dot. Sorry about that. Hopefully you did okay with that one. All right, so let's go back up and do this next one. 1.6 times 1.3. Oops, we're going to rearrange. 1.6 times 1.3. And then 10 to the 7th power times 10 to the negative 5th power. Okay, multiply the coefficients, and I get 2 and 8/100. Add the exponents because the bases are the same. 7 plus negative 5 is 2, so 10 to the second power. Then look at it and see if it's in scientific notation, and it is because 2 is between 1 and 10. So this is your final answer. Hopefully that wasn't a problem. All right, so let's talk about dividing. Dividing is the same thing, same steps, okay? They're little different properties, but they're the same steps. So let's go through them. You're going to use the commutative property to rewrite the expression. I do apologize, my division line or my quotient line is in the goofy place. It didn't transfer. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put together, sorry, I used orange last time. I'll do that again. I'm going to put together the numbers I'm dividing, or the coefficients, 4.5 divided by 3, and 10 to the 9th power over 10 to the 6th power. Now I'm going to divide my coefficient, and I get 1 and 5/10. Now I use the quotient of powers property, which tells me I subtract my exponents. 9 take away 6 is 3, so it's 10 to the 3rd power. So now I'm going to check it because that's my final step, which is convert to proper scientific notation if necessary. Well, 1.5 is between 1 and 10, so I know that I'm in scientific notation already, and I'm just going to leave it alone. Here are 2 more. Try them by yourself. Pause the video right now. Try them by yourself, see how you do, and then write down any questions you might have. Okay, so let's see how you did. Let's rewrite it. 4 and 12/100 divided by 4 times 10 to the negative 1 power divided by 10 to the negative 6 power. Sorry. Divide the coefficients, 1 and 3/100. Subtract, so negative 1 minus negative 6, which gives me 10 to the positive 5th power. If you don't remember, use a calculator for those integers. And then let's check it and see, is it in scientific notation? Yes, it is, because 1 and 3/10 is between 1 and 10. All right, let's do the next problem. Rewrite it. 7 and 8/10 divided by 1 and 2/10 times 10 to the 5th power divided by 10 to the 2nd power. Divide the coefficients, and we get 6 and 5/10. Subtract the exponents because my bases are the same. 5 take away 2 is 3, so 10 to the 3rd power. And last but not least, check and see if it's in scientific notation. 6 and 5/10 is between 1 and 10, so it's in scientific notation, and leave it like it is. All right, if you have any questions, write them down. We'll be working on this in class.